I received an invitation to a high school reunion. It's not a large-scale event. It's a reunion for our senior year class. I remember receiving an invitation about 4 years ago, but I couldn't make it due to scheduling conflicts. This time, I'm planning to make it work and attend. I'm already in my mid-30s. Even if they weren't my closest friends, it wouldn't be bad to catch up with the folks I spent my sensitive teenage years with after a long time. I took another look at the invitation. Seeing the name of the man who initiated and is organizing the class reunion, I remembered something. Back in my senior year of high school, Andy came to me almost in tears and said this: "Nathan, you are going to take over the family business, right?" "I don't want to." His family ran a church, and his father was a pastor. He was crying back then in our senior year, saying he didn't want to become a pastor. But it seems he ended up taking over the church after all. He must have become a respectable pastor after taking over from his father. Now I have one more reason to look forward to the reunion. Since I've already gone into detail, I might as well mention that I too took over my father's work. My dad is a family doctor. It's the so-called family doctor or town doctor. It's been almost 5 years since I joined my father's practice after working at a university hospital. My father is still actively continuing as the head of the practice. Old-time patients have always referred to my father as Dr. Senior Thompson and to me as Dr. Junior Thompson. About 30 people attended the reunion. Some had changed so much that I couldn't immediately recognize them, while others looked just as they did back in the day. Among them, Elizabeth caught my eye. In high school, she had a mature aura, yet when she laughed, her dimples made her the adorable Madonna of our class. Now, she seemed even more charming, possessing a youthfulness that could pass for someone in their 20s. "Nathan, it's been so long. I've wanted to see you." She initiated the conversation. Her saying she wanted to see me made my heart skip a beat. Seeing her smile directed at me gave me a jolt of excitement. It's an honor to be remembered, you know. We weren't that close in high school. She was popular with both boys and girls, a high flyer out of my reach. To her, I was probably just one of the many plain, unremarkable classmates. Though she might not remember, there's one unforgettable rainy day memory I have of her. Still, seeing her after so many years and being told she wanted to meet is perplexing. Even now, I'm just a plain, unremarkable local doctor on the surface. At the reunion, she was very popular, quickly surrounded by classmates happy to reunite. "Are you married yet?" "I'm still single." I heard someone say that. Realizing she might also be single, I stood there feeling somewhat pleased, but as more people joined the conversation, I found myself pushed out of the circle. It seemed like talking to her wasn't going to happen. So, I made up an excuse about wanting to hear some priest stories from the organizer and was about to leave the scene. Just then, she grabbed my arm and stopped me from leaving. "Nathan, it doesn't look like we'll have much time to talk today. Can we meet up soon? Just the two of us." "Just the two of us, I mean, sure." We hurriedly exchanged phone numbers. "I'll call you then," she said with a bright smile and returned to the lively group. I watched her, dazed. Being asked to meet up, just the two of us, left me bewildered. Yet, the invitation from the Madonna of my past left me in a dreamlike state. The next day, she got in contact with me right away. She mentioned she wanted to invite me to a sushi place she frequents. By invitation, she meant she would cover the costs. That would be imposing on you. Of course, I tried to decline. "It's no imposition, please, let me," she insisted with a sweet voice. "What's going on?" I couldn't help but be cautious about such a generous offer. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I hadn't asked about her current job, but for all I knew, she could be in some kind of weird sales job, selling ridiculously expensive down quilts or something. "Nathan, you're a doctor, right?" "Yes, that's right." "I want to hear about it, so it's settled, right?" Whether she sensed my wariness or not, she pressed on with that sweet voice. "What kind of stories are you interested in?" When I asked again, puzzled, she said in a voice that was half teasing, half endearing, "That's for us to discuss when we meet." Zing. My heart was struck. It's uncertain whether it's true or not, but one often hears stories about men and women reuniting at reunions and sparks flying, leading to an unexpected romance. In that regard, there's no problem for me as I'm single and have no significant other. She said she wasn't married either. With these thoughts and filled with anticipation, I happily made my way to the sushi restaurant we agreed on. It had a modern design, resembling an upscale bar. Upon giving my name, I was escorted to a private room. She was already there, waiting for me. "Thank you for coming all this way today," she said, formally greeting me. Something about her demeanor felt off. "You must be busy, being a doctor and all." "Well, somewhat, yeah." She watched me sit down with a smile on her face. But her smile seemed more like a professional courtesy, somewhat distant. "Something feels off," I thought to myself. She rapidly fired questions at me, feeling increasingly uneasy about the clinic hours, days off, and my usual routine, among other daily activities. Indeed, she had mentioned over the phone that she wanted to hear about my life as a doctor. It didn't seem like she was trying to sell me a luxury down quilts, but still. "What's this about? Are you researching the lifestyle of a town doctor like me?" When I couldn't hold back and asked, she seemed to freeze up, tensing all over. "Is something wrong?" As I spoke, she slapped her forehead with the palm of her right hand. Then, she hastily pulled a business card from her bag, readjusted herself in her seat with a rustle, and presented the card to me with both hands. "I'm so sorry. I mistakenly thought I had already introduced myself at the reunion." I took her business card and glanced at it. She was a talent manager at an entertainment agency. She explained the situation with an apologetic tone. She managed a male talent in his late 20s. "He's got good looks and a nice personality. Kind of reminds me of you, Nathan." She flattered me as she began her story. The male talent wanted to focus mainly on acting in the entertainment industry. However, he had not been fortunate with the roles he received and had been somewhat lacking as an actor. Then, suddenly, he landed a leading role in a television drama. The role is of a young, handsome town doctor. That's why you were the first person who came to my mind. More compliment. In short, she wanted to conduct research for the talent's role preparation, and just then, the invitation to our class reunion arrived. As soon as she saw me, she blurted out how she wanted to meet me. Unbeknownst to me, I got carried away on my own. This was the gist of her story, but her flattery felt like a sales pitch at times. However, I figured she was just trying not to upset me and let it slide. After all, she was just doing her job by approaching me. It was foolish of me to harbor any faint hopes. As I listened to her story, a question formed in my mind. It was about the TV drama where the talent she manages was cast in a leading role. Could it be? I'm so bad at this. I acted as if I had already told you about this and ended up asking all those impolite questions up front. After she finished explaining, she lightly tapped her head. Watching her do that, I found her slightly clumsy side rather endearing. And so, I decided to clarify my suspicion about the TV drama she mentioned her talent was starring in. "So, what's this TV drama about?" I asked casually, and she replied, "It's a late-night series. Kind of a lighthearted mystery, I guess. Each episode is self-contained, spanning across 8 episodes in total. Each one lasts for 45 minutes. Each episode involved the young town doctor protagonist uncovering the mystery behind incidents occurring at a certain high school. There was no longer any doubt in my mind. There's an original work for it, right? I pretended to ask innocently. Yes, there is. It's a light novel genre. I wouldn't expect you to know about it, Nathan, since it's probably not your thing. If it was a light novel, then it was almost certainly the one I wrote. It turned out just as I had expected. I couldn't help but let a smile slip out. Then she took the original book out of her bag and held it up to me, saying, "The author, you see, has just recently made their debut." This newcomer novelist, who burst onto the light novel scene like a comet, was shrouded in mystery, with no public photos, age, or even gender disclosed. But I knew the true identity. It was me, inheriting my father's practice and working as a town doctor. The job of a doctor often involves long hours. Holidays are few and far between. Even outside of working hours, I can't relax because I might have to respond to emergencies or sudden changes in a patient's condition. There are also conferences and study groups to attend. But even doctors are human. Everyone is different. Some drink, some go out at night. In my case, my hobby during breaks was primarily munching on snack foods while reading. And it was always mystery novels. Being a private practitioner, as opposed to a hospital doctor, does allow for some flexibility in setting my own hours and taking days off, somewhat easing the long hours. Especially in my case, having my father around gave me significantly more free time than when I was working in a hospital. It was right after I switched from being a hospital doctor to join my father's clinic. I happened to read a mystery novel set in a medical environment. However, its plot was so far-fetched that I stopped reading midway. At the same time, I thought to myself, if something like this can be published, then I can write one too. The publisher of that book was holding a competition to discover new authors. With my newfound free time, I decided to take on the challenge of writing a mystery novel featuring a town doctor as the detective. I submitted my finished work to the competition. It didn't even get selected. However, later on, one of the judges from that competition, an editor, reached out to me. They said my writing and story structure needed work, but the medical aspects were realistic and good. They also found the setting of the main character as a town doctor interesting. Given that, I was invited by the editor to try my hand at a light novel he was planning. The idea was to use the town doctor from a story I had written as the detective in a high school mystery he was devising. The plan was to publish one story in a monthly magazine to gauge reader response, so over 6 months, I completed a work of about 80,000 words. This story was well received when published in the magazine, leading to a series and eventually a book publication. And now, that book was being turned into a TV drama. The show is a comedy with no gruesome incidents, where the recurring highlight is the protagonist, a town doctor, dramatically revealing a culprit with a "was you" moment. However, this is always interrupted by a call from an elderly patient, a childhood friend, asking for help with her unending diarrhea. As I absent-mindedly reflected on how I ended up juggling roles as both a town doctor and a novelist, she said, "That's why I'd like to hear more stories from you." "Sure, I can't promise I'll be of much help, though," I answered, pretending to be unaware. Maybe this was the moment to reveal that I was the mystery author behind the drama. However, I had kept the identity of the author hidden from the public and had missed the timing to reveal it in the conversation. Moreover, compared to the renowned author Mr. Thompson, she should find it easier to reach out to the town doctor, who was her high school classmate. Who knows, with these meetings, trust might grow and turn into something more, right? I calmed my racing heart. I'm a doctor, after all. It's not uncommon for novels and comics to be adapted into movies or TV shows. Of course, the author's consent is necessary for such adaptations. The publishing company approached me about the drama adaptation. I was also shown a project proposal for the drama. In my book, I set the historical background to the time when I was in high school, but now it's been updated to the present. New elements, not found in the original, such as a young female teacher, have been introduced to add a romantic storyline with the protagonist, a town doctor. These were among the suggested changes. Whether novelists or manga artists, creators often have a deep attachment to their work and a unique worldview. That's why I've heard that some authors can be quite vocal and demanding when it comes to adaptations. However, being a newcomer, I believed that printed words and visuals are inherently different. So, as long as the drama didn't completely deviate from the essence of my book, I was open to letting them do as they pleased. The drama script was sent to me, but I merely skimmed through it without giving it much thought. Little did I know, I would end up getting involved like this. A week later, she reached out, wanting to give me an update. In return for the last time we went out for sushi, I met up with her under the condition that it would be my treat at a place I knew. Sorry for choosing a place like this, even though I said it was my treat. I took her to a local Chinese restaurant near my clinic. It was my favorite spot for lunch, but it was my first time there at night. It has a nice, old-fashioned vibe, doesn't it? Contrary to her words, the look on her face as she scanned the restaurant clearly showed her bewilderment. I guarantee you'll like the taste. I casually ordered a couple of drinks and a few dishes for us. The drama was still in the pre-filming stage, doing script readings and costume fittings. When I asked if things were going smoothly, she replied, "Well, it's going smoothly, but," indicating there was a discrepancy between the protagonist she had envisioned and the reality. The protagonist in the original is more straightforward and simple-minded, you know. She pondered over this as she started with the spicy Chinese-style cucumber dish. "Oh, this is good." She then reached for the bamboo shoots and roast pork on the table, repeating her praises with each bite. That part wasn't really changed in the script, was it? At my words, she looked up, puzzled. I let it slip. Now it's obvious that I've been reading the script. Well, I mean, that was a question. Isn't it like the original? Well, yes, but whether it was the talent she managed not getting the character right, or the director's guidance, she was clearly not satisfied. Stir-fried greens, wood ear mushrooms with eggs, and sweet and sour pork. We finished the meal with a mixed fried rice and left the restaurant. Thank you, it was delicious. It turned out to be just a regular dinner, didn't it? I remarked, but she shook her head. Talking to you, Nathan, I somehow feel better, thanks. A few days later, she contacted me to say that the filming had finally started. She was also present at the set. Though it was just the beginning and the final product was uncertain, she sighed, feeling that it still differed from her vision. But isn't it common for the protagonist to differ from the original in adaptations? While I'm not much of a drama buff, I am aware that it's not unusual for people to criticize casting decisions as being unsuitable or miscast. It's not just the protagonist, it's the overall tone. I wish it had more of the nostalgic feel like in the original. Her mention of nostalgic took me by surprise. I hadn't intended to infuse my book with nostalgia. However, I did reminisce about my high school days while writing. Perhaps she, having spent the same years at the same school, felt a connection and sensed nostalgia. But the setting of the drama is in the present, after all. Yeah, that's true, But how did you know? Once again, I had let something slip. It's just that I heard it from you. I blurted out an excuse in my panic. She asked back, "Did I tell you that?" I lied, "Yes, I heard about it." That day, my clinic was closed. It had been raining since morning, and I had been cooped up in my room at home, doing some research. She contacted me around noon, saying that the outdoor shooting was canceled due to the rain, and she had some free time. So she suggested we have lunch together. How about that Chinese restaurant we went to last time? I had been there for lunch the day before, but I agreed and we met up at the restaurant. We bumped into each other in front of the restaurant by chance. We shook off the raindrops from our umbrellas at the entrance and then went inside to place them in the umbrella stand. After we ordered and were seated across from each other, she took a book out of her bag. It was the book I wrote. This is the original book for the drama, but I decided to reread it from the beginning. She said, showing me the cover of the book, "Aren't you in the middle of shooting? Shouldn't you be reading the script rather than the original book?" I picked up mighty. "That's true, but I noticed something interesting." She leaned in, her eyes sparkling with excitement. And then she said, "It's similar, just like our high school days." I'd almost choked on the tea I was drinking. The description of the high school in the book, from the main gate to the school building connected by a gently curving uphill path, with holly bushes planted on one side and 2 tennis courts on the other, as well as the layout of the school buildings and a bicycle parking area, was exactly like our alma mater. "Aren't most school layouts somewhat similar?" I replied, trying to maintain my composure despite my inner panic. "There's more." She went on to say with certainty that certain characters in the story resembled our classmates, and in another episode, there were characters similar to other people we knew. "If you think it's a lie, you should read it too, Nathan. I'll lend you the book." I took the book she offered and placed it next to me on the table, pretending to be uninterested. I thought it was time to change the subject. I looked around the restaurant for a new topic. My gaze stopped at the umbrella stand by the entrance. I had a bad feeling. And that feeling turned out to be right. In episode 6, there's an umbrella theft incident. She didn't need to tell me. I was the one who wrote it. I remember it clearly. On a rainy day, an umbrella is stolen from the stand at the entrance of the school building. The umbrella belonged to the class's idol. The town doctor detective takes on the case, identifying 3 suspects. Mala student A, who had a secret crush on the girl and wanted an excuse to be close to her. Female student B, who was jealous of the popular girl and looking for an opportunity to harass her. Mala student C, who had previously been a victim of a similar crime and wanted to take revenge by stealing umbrellas indiscriminately. The protagonist, a detective and town doctor, had been lying in wait near the umbrella stand before it was even known that an umbrella had been stolen. He approached a female student, asking, "Was your umbrella stolen?" and cleverly deduced that male student A, who had walked her home under a shared umbrella, was the thief. The boy's motive was just to share an umbrella with the girl he liked, even if it was just once. I was amazed at how such a story could be dramatized, as she mentioned, "Don't you remember, Nathan?" Her expression was different than before, somewhat innocently cheerful. "Back in high school, it wasn't that my umbrella was stolen, I just forgot to bring one despite the evening rain forecast." I thought she wouldn't remember, but she did recall that rainy day, unforgettable to me. I got held up doing something and ended up staying late. By then, everyone else from class had gone home, and it just so happened that only you were still around. I had fallen asleep in the library. When I woke up and went downstairs to leave, I found her stranded, unable to go home, staring at the pouring rain. I took my umbrella from the stand and offered to share it with her, who seemed at a loss. "Is it okay?" she asked. And so, she and I shared an umbrella. Of course, the situation is entirely different from this book, but the description of the two of us sharing an umbrella, she said, peeking into my face. With a faint smile, she seemed to say with her eyes that she saw right through me. I admitted defeat. I give up. Yes, it's me. I'm indeed the author behind this book. I knew it. From that day on, we stayed in touch frequently, regardless of her work, and found time to meet whenever we could. You often hear stories about men and women reuniting at reunions and suddenly falling into a forbidden love. I always wondered if those stories were true or not, but it seems they might not be entirely unfounded. Though, in our case, it wasn't a forbidden but a rightful love. We need to buy a bigger one, don't we? I said, pulling her closer by the shoulder. This umbrella was too small for the two of us to fit under.